Ymir and Jolan are two NPCs in Elden Ring that are both involved in the same questline within the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. The entire questline and many unique rewards that can be obtained along the way will all be covered in this guide, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. I also recommend checking the pinned comment before watching, as I'll be updating it with any new important information as time goes on. In order to access the DLC, you will need to defeat Radahn and Mohg, Lord of Blood. I cover both of those extensively in my complete guide on how to prepare for the DLC, which I will leave a link to near the bottom of this video's description. Once we've done that, we can enter the Shadow Realm by interacting with Miquella's cocoon. The first thing we will need to do is get to the Scadu Altus region, and there is actually a way to do this that does not require going through Castle Ensis. Be warned though that going to Scadu Altus will cause the Hornsent NPC to move there from his initial location in Gravesite Plains, skipping over some early minor interactions with him. That aside, starting from the Gravesite Plains Site of Grace, we can head north and across the Elac Great Bridge to reach the Castle Front Site of Grace. From there, we will need to head southeast down into a valley area. This will lead to an area of Miranda flowers and pools of poison with a wooden shack visible in the distance. Beyond the pools of poison, there is a sealed spirit spring. It can be activated by destroying the pile of rocks just a short distance east of it. We can then take the spirit spring up to a secluded ledge, and a second spirit spring there all the way up to the Site of Grace behind the Fort of Reprimand, which is in Scadu Altus. After discovering the Grace, we can jump over the wall to the northeast to reach the ground below with only minimal damage taken. We will then make our way around the fort, ultimately moving towards the northwest side of it. We may as well discover the Morth Highway South Site of Grace before continuing, as we will be returning there later on. If we haven't already done so, we should go grab the map for this region. To reach it, we can follow the Morth Highway northwest. Keep an eye out for one of Miquella's crosses on the east side of the highway along the way, as it's a good marker for the Morth Ruins Site of Grace, which we will be returning to once we grab the map. The highway will eventually merge with another road, and the map can be found at that intersection. Next up, we're going to make our way to the Cathedral of Manus Metyr, where both Ymir and Jolan can be found. Along the way, we will get a gesture that is required to complete their shared quest line. Once again, be warned that this will trigger a major milestone in the DLC, as it will dispel Miquella's charm on all major NPCs. This may cause certain NPC quest steps to be skipped, but to the best of my knowledge, it won't cause any quests to automatically fail. With that said, let's go ahead and fast travel to the Morth Ruins. From there, we will move a short distance east and just a tad south to find a crumbling opening to the ruins below. We will want to take care as we descend into the ruins, as it is possible to die from fall damage. There are some minor items to find throughout the ruins, so feel free to explore on your own. Once we've gotten near the bottom of the ruins, there should be a tunnel leading southeast, out of the ruins and to the Bonnie Village Site of Grace. Before continuing to the Cathedral, let's grab the O Mother gesture, which we will need later. We'll start by moving east down the village road. After jumping over the dried up stream, turn north and head to the outskirts of the village. The gesture will be found near a gnarled tree, in front of a kneeling headless statue. We can then double back a short distance and move across the bridge to the northeast. If Miquella's Great Rune and Charm have not already been broken, they will be once we move a short distance beyond the bridge leading to the village Site of Grace. In any case, we will keep running north along the road, eventually reaching the Church District High Road Site of Grace. We can then move along the road southwest, arriving at the Cathedral of Manus Metyr in short order. After discovering the Site of Grace, head through the double doors and speak with the seated man near the back of the cathedral. This is an NPC by the name of Ymir. He will give us the Hole-Laden necklace key item and ruins map note when spoken to for the first time. We can speak with Ymir 2 more times to open a menu where we can ask about glintstone sorcery, as well as learn a number of spells in exchange for runes. More spells will become available as we progress the quest. After speaking with Ymir, a new NPC by the name of Jolan will appear to the northwest, leaning against a pillar. Jolan will give us the cold shoulder treatment at first, but we should still speak with her until exhausting all of her dialogue. If we want, we can then go speak with Ymir once more and ask him about her, but I don't think it's entirely necessary. With that handled, we will now need to go to the Finger Ruins of Rhia, which are located in the Southern Shore region. Let's go ahead and cover how to get the corresponding map for that region, which we can do on our way to the Finger Ruins. Once again, we will start from the Castle Front Site of Grace and move southeast, this time sticking to the east side of the main road. Beyond several soldiers of Mesmer, there is a steep but scalable series of drops down to the Elac River. Once we're down, we can enter a cave system to the north near a large pink Miranda flower. We will then move southwest through the cave and feel free to explore as you go. There is a revered spirit ash that we can grab just before discovering the Elac River Cave Site of Grace. From there, we will continue moving south through the cave system. There are a few platforming sections that will need to be dealt with carefully to avoid death by fall damage. Also a threat are the handful of gravebirds lining the way down. Dangers notwithstanding, we should eventually get to the Elac River downstream Site of Grace. From here, it's just a bit further south to get out of this cavern. That said, we will still need to move further south, past several lightning sheep and a furnace golem. We can then angle west and run through a patch of trees to reach the Cerulean coast. You are probably tired of hearing this by now, but yet again, we need to keep moving south in order to reach the map for this region. Watch out for a ghost flame dragon, which will swoop in near the center of the field. It is substantially stronger than the one found in the Gravesite Plains. Not far beyond the dragon, we will find the southern shore map, and just beyond that, one of Miquella's crosses along with the Cerulean Coast Cross Site of Grace. We can reach the Finger Ruins of Rhia pretty quickly from this location. Start by jumping north up to the elevated patch. We will then move northwest onto the stone coffin structure and double jump north over a gap to reach another elevated area. Moving north, we will go to another stone coffin and move east down to a secluded section of shoreline. Next, head further east while watching out for finger creepers buried in the sand. Near the edge of the shoreline, we will find another stone coffin, which we can move northeast over to reach the edge of the Finger Ruins. Our target is at the center of the Finger Ruins, so we will need to make our way down there. The denizens of these ruins, known as lampreys, will do their best to impede our progress. One lamprey in particular will shoot purple bolts at us. If they connect, we will be dismounted and anchored to the ground for several seconds. Personally, I've found that those attacks are almost impossible to dodge, but using the enormous stone fingers and terrain as cover works well enough. At the center of the ruins is a hanging bell, which we can interact with thanks to our Hole-Laden necklace. Doing so will get us the Crimson Seed Talisman +1 and will progress our quest. With that done, we can return to the Cathedral of Manus Metyr and speak with Ymir. He will reward us with a second ruins map, along with the beloved Stardust Talisman. We can also speak with him about the nature of the world for some lore, and he will have some new sorceries to teach us. Afterwards, we can speak with Jolan, and she will declare her trust and alliance with us. Once we've exhausted all NPC dialogue, we will need to make our way to the Finger Ruins of Dheo. These ruins can only be reached by venturing through the Shadow Keep, but fortunately, we won't have to fight any bosses to do that. Rather than enter through the main gate, we can enter through the church district. Also, as a quick side note, there seems to be a weird bug or issue with the quest whereby the third and final Finger Ruins are accessible early, but only temporarily. They are accessed by interacting with Ymir's chair when he is absent. Because of the potential problems associated with this, I recommend resting at the Site of Grace and checking if Ymir is gone. If he is, interact with his chair, descend the ladder, then immediately fast travel back to the Cathedral Site of Grace. This should fix the problem and prevent any issues, but I digress. Starting at the Church District High Road Site of Grace, we will move northwest up the road and into the Shadow Keep's Church District. The Church District is initially flooded, and given that the lever to drain the water is only a minor detour from our path, we can go ahead and do that along the way. However, there is also a Great Grave Glovewort that I am pretty sure can only be gotten when the water is present, so let's get that first. Jumping down to the rooftops below, we will head southwest and jump to a floating log, which we can use to reach the circular stone structure. We will then need to hop across several more logs southwest to reach the Great Grave Glovewort. We can then either backtrack to the first rooftop we jumped down to, or fast travel to the nearby Site of Grace, which is what I did. This time, we will move northwest across the rooftops. In order to reach the next rooftop, we will need to sprint jump off one of the raised structures. We can then climb the crumbling bricks and jump north to an even surface, before sprint jumping west from there to another rooftop. There is a Fire Knight on this particular rooftop that we may want to deal with before sprint jumping south to a nearby strut, which we can climb to the roof of the central church. We will then need to carefully drop down to some stone arches below and move west across them. Dropping down to the floor below, we will move a short distance northwest, exiting out the second door to our southwest. We can follow this path south past several giant bats before reaching a ladder. Up top, we'll find the lever to lower the water. It's a good idea to explore this area on your own, but for now, we'll double back to the central church and continue moving north down the hallway. The next opening that we can exit the church from should lead north to a lift, and this will take us to the specimen storehouse. After entering, we can veer southwest to reach the storehouse back section Site of Grace. From here, we'll need to move west and climb a very tall ladder. We can then proceed up the eastern stairs, down the hall, and southeast through a hole in the wall that leads to the keep's exterior. Moving up the scaffolding, we will eventually enter back into the storehouse near the loft Site of Grace. From there, we will take the nearby lift up a couple levels. We will next move west along the rafters to reach a ladder, which we can climb up one more level. Head east along this top floor, turning north when necessary, and eventually west. Also, watch out for the Fire Knight tucked away near the northern wall of the storehouse. He has a ranged attack that can easily send you flying over the edge. There are ladders where we need to descend near the northwest corner of the storehouse, but dropping down is faster and will help us avoid taking unnecessary damage. Once we've dropped down to the wider space below, we can head out the northwestern opening. The small lift to our east will take us where we need to go. Going down just a few more wooden stairs will get us to a stone lift, which will descend all the way down to the Shadow Keep back gate Site of Grace. Exiting north from here will result in a difficult boss fight, one that we don't need to do for this quest. Instead, we can head into the southeast chamber. A Scadu tree fragment can be picked up near the statue, and if we use the O Mother gesture, which we picked up near Bonnie Village, the statue will slide out of the way, revealing a hidden passage to the hinterland of Scadu view. After discovering the nearby Site of Grace, we can head northeast towards the Finger Ruins of Dheo. There are 2 tree sentinels along the way, which we can fight to get some Marika's Blessing consumables. There is also a summoning sign which will call in Jolan to help. That being said, neither defeating the tree sentinels nor summoning Jolan are required to complete our quest. What we will need to do is move northeast and across the Hinterland Bridge, before making our way southeast down the Fingerstone Hill. Once again, we will need to reach the center of the ruins, and several pesky lampreys will do their best to stop us. Personally, I approached from the east side, and it was sort of a failure in that I was knocked from Torrent at least 3 times. But it was also a success in that I made it to the ruin center alive. In any case, once there, we can interact with the Hanging Bell to get the Cerulean Seed Talisman +1. With that, we can fast travel back to the Cathedral and speak with Ymir to get the 3rd and final ruins map. He will also have one more new sorcery to teach, Fleeting Microcosm. After doing that, we can speak with Jolan again, and she will offer up some information on what Ymir is trying to do. Once all dialogue has been exhausted, we can rest at the nearby Site of Grace to start the final phase of the questline. And I recommend watching a little bit ahead before interacting with the final Hanging Bell. Ymir should now be gone and will stay gone until our business below the cathedral is concluded. Interacting with his empty chair will reveal a tall ladder, which we can slide down to the Finger Ruins of Ymir. Walking forward just a few steps will trigger an invasion by Swordhand of Knight Anna, Jolan's sister. Defeating Anna will get us the Claws of Night, which are pretty great as far as fist weapons go. There is an optional interaction that we can get with Jolan, but only if we do it before interacting with the Hanging Bell. We can go ahead and grab the Finger Weaver's Cookbook 2 a short distance northwest, then fast travel back to the cathedral above. There, we can speak with Jolan once more, and mention that we were attacked by her sister. Speaking with Jolan a few more times will lead to her thanking us in her own way. We can now head back down to the Finger Ruins and interact with the Hanging Bell. Pause here until after you do that if you don't want any spoilers. For everyone else, this particular Hanging Bell will transport us to the Finger Birthing Grounds, where we will need to face off with Metyr, Mother of Fingers. This boss is very tough, or at least it was for me. I eventually defeated it with the Ancient Meteoric or Greatsword and the Mimic Tier Spirit Summons, but it took me a decent number of attempts before I learned the boss's moveset. Also, for anyone interested in getting that sword, I'll leave a link to a guide on how to do just that near the bottom of this video's description. Defeating Metyr gets us the Remembrance of the Mother of Fingers as well as 420,000 runes. However, we aren't done quite yet. After discovering the Site of Grace down here, we'll fast travel back to the cathedral above. Once more, we will need to interact with Ymir's chair, which will result in another fight where 2 foes will need to be defeated. Fortunately, it's not nearly as difficult as our previous fight. Once both Jolan and Count Ymir, Mother of Fingers, have been defeated, we will get Ymir's High Priest armor set, Maternal staff, and bell bearing. After resting at a site of grace, we can then find a wounded Jolan sitting in her initial location. We have two options for how to finish her questline. We can use either an Iris of Grace or an Iris of Occultation on her, and each comes with its own reward. I believe there are at least 2 of each Iris that can be found in the DLC, and potentially more. But for the purposes of this guide, we'll just cover where to get one of each. For the Iris of Grace, we will need to head to the Specimen Storehouse. Starting at the back section site of Grace, we'll jump down to the first floor, then move northwest to a lift, which will take us down to another area of the keep. Going out and through the door to the north, then the door to the west, we can jump over the balcony to the floor below. The Iris of Grace should be directly behind where we land. Next is the Iris of Occultation. For this one, we will start at the North Highway South side of Grace and move southeast into the Fort of Reprimand. Right after entering, there is a hole to the northeast, which we can drop down through to a chamber below. A couple of high-value runes can be found here, and the Omen Killer enemy will drop the Iris of Occultation when defeated. With those in hand, now comes the decision of which Iris to use on Jolan, and you will probably want to watch the rest of this video before making your decision. First, if we use the Iris of Occultation on Jolan, we will get the Sword of Night. This is probably the coolest looking katana, if not weapon, in the game. It's a katana with a blade made of shadows. It has an awesome looking unique skill called Witching Hour Slash, which can be charged to increase its power and make it look even more stylish. However, I tested it out and personally was not super impressed with its damage output, so take that into consideration. The second option is to use the Iris of Grace on Jolan. This will get us her Spirit Ashes, which is a fairly mid-summons. However, this spirit can be upgraded in more than one way, which is what, in my opinion, makes it the much more compelling option. If you are sure of your decision, then you can make it now, but if you want to see what I mean about a special upgrade to Jolan's Spirit Ashes before choosing, then watch on. In order to transform Jolan's Spirit Ashes, we will need to fast travel to the Hinterland site of Grace. And even if you already chose the Sword of Night, you should also do this, as everyone will get some great unique items. We will start by heading southeast and up into the Shaman Village. Near the village's entrance is a small peculiar tree. A legendary incantation, Minor Erdtree, can be found in front of it. This incantation may just have the highest faith requirement of any spell at 70. However, it is quite the spectacle as it conjures a tree of light that continuously heals nearby allies. Moving along, we can find a strong defensive talisman, the Golden Braid, beneath a gnarled tree on the southwest side of the village. Now it's time for the main reason we are here. Moving east along the southern edge of this area, we should find a series of drops that we can carefully make our way down. We can drop down from the final lowest ledge to land on the otherwise unreachable top floor of Rabbath's Rise. Pause now if you don't want this next part spoiled until you see it yourself. On the top floor is a puppet of Anna, Jolan's sister. If we have the Jolan Spirit Ashes, we can usher Anna into them, creating a new Spirit Ashes altogether, Jolan and Anna. This is actually a pretty good summon, as it calls in 2 allies to aid in battle, both of which are fairly tough. We can also turn the ashes back if we want, by interacting with the puppet again. There are also 2 more items to grab here. Dropping down 1 floor, we can pick up the Spell Machinist's Bell Bearing. And on the floor below that, we can get Rabbath's cannon out of a chest. It uses Greatbolts as ammunition and imbues them with the ability to home in on targets. In addition, that bell bearing that we just picked up can be turned into the Twin Maiden husks at Round Table Hold to make an unlimited number of Rabbath's Greatbolts available for purchase. These glintstone shard encrusted bolts detonate on impact, creating a large explosion that deals magic damage. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I will do my best to help. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Sunday, and a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.